Dylan Roof, the Charleston terrorist, that should have been a watershed moment for a lot of these folks. But guess what? They stuck around. Guess what? They stuck around through this entire time. Like, we're not seeing this massive jumping of ship. You have Steve Bannon, who gave a mild rebuke of the alt-right. But you literally have Donald Trump saying there's good people on both sides. He literally praised Nazis. Actual Nazis received praise from the president of the United States. Like, this, for them, is the best recruitment tool that they have had in a very long time. And to compound on that, again, going back to a lot of our audience, because I know quite a few of you are white and on the left, this whole idea of you have to fight hate with love thing, it doesn't solve anything.
Well, I think Adair, quickly before you get on, Brandon, I just wanted to mention that it brings up something that I saw on some of the major networks talking about how, you know, that Republicans can't be surprised by Trump, just as we're talking about that people can't be surprised by the alt-right or white supremacy. But they only go back a year or two, when Trump's history of this stuff and the history of white supremacy goes long back before a year or two, or the most recent events that we see. And people have been screaming at the top of their lungs about it, and it's been people refusing to listen, denying it, diffusing it, trying to diminish it, all of those types of things. And it's been years and decades even. And as we saw leading in the election, the picture of Hillary at Trump's wedding and them schmoozing with each other, it's like, these people were despicable people. That he was a despicable person then, and she was, you know, associating with him, and that was fine. But now, since these specific events have happened and so much attention has been drawn to them, now you have to, is like, I think that works for people who legitimately weren't engaged in that in following that information. But for educated, informed, politically engaged people that like senators, so on and so forth, that's not an excuse.
I think that Trump adopting the language of alt-left, like the nomenclature of the alt-left, might have woken a few of them up about that false equivalency, you know, and how dangerous it actually is to make that false equivalency. I don't necessarily think that Trump using that language is going to do so much damage, right? I think that there's, you know, something you said about, oh, well, now that Trump has named this group, people are going to be targeting those who they, you know, identify as the alt-left. There's going to be, you know, crackdowns and policies about the alt-left. But I think that was happening anyway, right? I think that we saw policies aimed at making it legal to run over protesters already coming out prior to Charlottesville. And we know, you know, Cuomo is trying to create some sort of coded language law to crack down on Black Lives Matter protests, you know, and incitement of riot and all other stuff. But I do think there's a certain segment of the population who are going to say, hey, you know what? Like, Trump is saying that Antifa was fighting Nazis. You know, I think that there is we know how powerful Trump opposing something actually is for organization, right? I think there is actually something to be said for Trump acknowledging, you know, not only the alt-left as an enemy of fascism and an enemy of Nazis, who he just could not seem to condemn, which is amazing, right?
Well, real quick, right before we go, because we got 5 minutes, guys, before we're going to hop on the podcast. Like, it's Donald Trump's block, right? Like, of course he's not gonna condemn neo-Nazis. And the only time he did, it was after great pressure from generals and other people in his cabinet, and then the very next day he walked it back. Like, he knows who his bread and butter is. He knows who likes him, who's going to support him. So obviously Donald Trump has to do what Donald Trump does. But I'm gonna go ahead and get my last word in now, since we've just got 6 minutes. And I just want to thank everybody who joined us on the live show. Stay tuned for the podcast. It's coming right up after this. Thanks to the big bro Ben, letting us be on the channel. My audio is a little bit better. See what happens, patrons? Your audio gets a little bit nicer when y'all help us out. So please go to the Patreon. It's patreon.com/expand the discourse. I'm gonna go ahead and hop off and let the other guys do what they do for the last 6 minutes before we really fuck some shit up on the podcast. Check that out on SoundCloud while SoundCloud is still around.
I'll say quickly that part of what this goes back to during the election season, when Donald Trump was essentially running on speaking directly to the group of Americans that Republicans had only dog whistled for generations. And when he went out there and started explicitly saying exactly what they were thinking, and saying it on a national stage, and had the media waiting on bated breath for whatever wild statement he would make, then whatever statements that would come out after, and now it's the wild statement followed by his staff trying to walk it back, with him going back and saying the opposite. And it's a cyclical thing that we could have seen coming and should have seen coming, and I think many people did see coming. And at this point, what's concerning me so much now is that it doesn't seem like Democrats have any plan or any strategy, even though it seems though some of the people, the rank and file, the members of the Democratic Party are starting to realize the weaknesses and the fallacies that they've been getting from the establishment leadership for years. And I think that that's going to... Donald Trump has created an opportunity for all the suffering and pain that he's causing and the amplification of white supremacy that has been a result of his election. All of that, it's also been an awakening, I think, like as Brandon mentioned during the show. And I think that we would be
remiss.
Yeah, we would be amiss to miss this opportunity and seize it with everything that we've got. So we're not as ready as we could have been had we had some better leadership from folks like Bernie Sanders and some of the other people that a lot of the folks that are listening to this rallied around. But we have an opportunity now, so I think we need to seize it. So that'll be my last piece.
Well,
And you know what? I just keep coming back to the Pied Piper strategy. I mean, this was a strategy memo that the DNC released where they wanted to elevate this. So they knew they were playing with fire. They knew they were gambling. And when the mainstream media went along with this, they were doing it for profits. Les Moonves said flat out, Donald Trump might not be good for America, but it's good for NBC. Well, this is not being good for America. This resurgence of white supremacy, this resurgence of Nazis, this is all, and them getting mainstream is a direct result of a collaborative effort. While Donald Trump should be absolutely condemned and is evil at this point, I'm willing to say that he is evil. The rest of everybody who basically allowed for him to come to the position where he can be our president, it's a multifaceted group, it's a multifaceted effort, and all of those people are basically complicit in this.
Well, so here's what I would say, right? I think there's two interesting points, right? What I wouldn't say earlier was this. Ultimately, I think Donald Trump is a good example of why we have to combat racism that we view. Essentially, Donald Trump is everyone's racist friend. He's everyone's racist friend. He's everyone's misogynist friend. He's everyone's braggadocious friend. Grandfather, uncle, who we kind of downplay the actual effects of that as a society. I think that in certain situations we have this kind of gap in understanding between the ways that racism plays out at various levels. It's a multivalent kind of thing. You have interpersonal racism, that you have internalized racism, you have structural, institutional, et cetera, and it's all because racism is such a hegemonic and a hegemonic part of American culture that has so many different kind of manifestations, where you're talking about white supremacy as American exceptionalism, white supremacy as structural racism, and the fact that roads in black communities are worse than roads in white communities, racism as just being called the N-word. It just manifests so many different ways, and we have a hard time seeing the connection between them. And now that Trump is in office, I think everyone should lesson from that. Like, hey, you know what? Maybe next time I hear my racist friend say something untoward, I should confront them and let them know that's not okay, right? And so we talk about the solutions to the rise of fascism. And even though I guess at this point people are, after Charlottesville, people are still trying to play well, you said it was economics anxiety. It's like, yeah, but you know what, fuck boy? We have actual data that shows that fascism and white supremacy and racist attitudes actually do go on the rise after, during, times of economic deprivation. We know that scientifically. We know studies have shown that when, jobs are scarce, resources are scarce, people view people of color as darker, more malicious. It's tied together. They're intrinsic parts of one another. But oftentimes we have a hard time socially sanctioning our friends and family for their racism. Imagine, I would say imagine what would happen if Hillary Clinton's had and Donald Trump's friends had sanctioned him for his racism. But honestly, it's really just that they were all racist too. We can go a little longer there. We started a little late. It's fine. You go, but I
wrap it up, Brandon.
The lesson I'm trying to talk about is that, hey, you know what?
We've got
the revolution starts at home. Revolution starts at home. It starts at the interpersonal. It starts, at the micro level, because that has macro level effects. So it starts with you confronting your own racism, and it starts with you confronting your friend's racism, and not just like special pleading both of those things away. And so, we'll come back after the break to the fun half of the show, and we'll talk about, the potential present in Trump's explicit racism, and also the dangers of Trump being so explicitly racist. We'll talk about the faux dichotomy between the alt-right and the alt-left. We'll talk about centrism. We'll talk about the idea that Confederate statues are history, and we'll touch on North Korea. So, definitely, if you have not gone over to SoundCloud, definitely go to SoundCloud and check out the full episode later, which will be posted probably by Saturday. And join the SoundCloud if you find it in your heart and find it in your wallet. It's hard time to become a patron. Even $1 helps. And we're gonna start rolling out the new Patreon rewards in the upcoming days. Sorry for the delay. I've been I've been a little sad, but it's fine. Everything's fine now. Thank you for joining us for the first half. Have a good night, late afternoon, whatever.
Whenever you listen.
Whenever you listen, really.
Brandon still sucks.